So I'll start. I'm Dawn Brown from South Courtright School in the Catskills. I am going to lead you through the climate action process this afternoon, and hope you guys will be able to help your students through that. And yeah,
So Dawn is part of our advisory team that's put the youth events together. I'm Jeannie Darling, Executive Director of Cornell Cooperative Extension, and we've been working actually doing youth summits for 5-6 years now, and had a very active group of students and teachers joining us to plan the summits. We've done a teacher institute and had really planned to have a in-person summit at SUNY Oneonta this fall, and we were also planned a teacher institute for May, and we've had to put those plans on hold, and hopefully we'll be able to use them next year, and actually plan everything now virtually. So we've been working all summer to replan and retool, and we're excited about everything that's going to happen. We're looking forward to not only Dawn's presentation, but also our first summer event on Thursday. So let's see who else is here. Neil, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, Neil Snedeker, science teacher in Roxbury.
And Neil's helped us also on the advisory committee, which is great. Annie?
Hi, I'm Annie Pavir. I work at Manhattan Country School Farm.
And Annie has been part of our team as well. And actually we started working on youth summits with Manhattan Country School. That was kind of our first partner. So it's great to have you, Annie, back, and looking forward to having students join on Thursday. Let's see, who else is here? Why don't you introduce yourself, Matthew?
Everybody, I'm Matthew Budd. I'm the Director of Community Action at the Berkeley Carroll School in Brooklyn.
Okay, great. So welcome. It's great to have you. Yvette?
Hi, I'm taking over for Jeff Mann, so I'm just here to see what's going on.
Wonderful. So Yvette is from Margaretville Central School, and she's very new this year, but we're happy to have her and students from Margaretville. They've been an integral part of our youth summit and helping us for the past few years. Alicia.
Hi, it's Alicia. I'm Alicia from Queens, Community Voices Middle School. We're joining for the first time. We're excited.
Yeah, so good to have you on board. Thanks for joining us. And Kristen? Or Kirsten?
Kristen, yep. Hi, I'm Kristen Ruggiero. I'm the 4-H educator with the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rockland County.
Great. Thanks for joining us. And Mrs. Smith?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Lisa. I'm changing my name as we speak. But I'm Lisa. I work with Alicia at Community Voices 356 in Springfield Gardens, Queens. I teach math, and I'm excited to be here.
Great. And who else do we have that I haven't seen so far on our screen here? Do we have everybody? Maybe we do.
I think just Valerie.
Just Valerie. You want to introduce yourself, Valerie?
Hi, I'm Valerie Dudley, and I work, I'm Jeannie's assistant. I work at Cooperative Extension in Delaware County. If you have any questions, ask me.
So Valerie is really being the person with all the technology for our youth summit events and getting everything ready, especially for Thursday, I think, to get us started. So thank you. And I guess we're going to turn it over to Dawn. Others may join us, but I think we should get started. Thank you, Dawn.
No problem. All right, so I'm going to share a presentation with you, and we will, let's see, make sure I get the right screen here. Here we go. We are going to walk through the process of climate action planning as well as we're going to try to just answer any questions that you may have. If you've been involved in climate action at all, or if you've been involved in attending the climate summits, you know, you may have an idea, but if not, it could be a completely new process. And ultimately, it's about helping the students to create action and follow through with that action and seeing the benefits of their actions, you know, in the long term. So as I said, my name is Dawn Brown. I'm a science teacher, high school science teacher at South Corey School in the Catskills. So it's nice that some of you are joining from quite a distance away. I know we've had, you know, people up from New York City in the past, and they've been great to work with. And then we have some from the local schools. So Yvette, Neil, you know, good to have you guys here with us. Let's see, we'll start. So this workshop is really to help guide you guys to turn around and then guide your students through this climate action process. So don't be afraid to stop me. If you have any questions, you can ask me questions at any time. If you want to type them, I can try to catch them as I go. If you said, oh, I typed a question and I hadn't seen it in like 5 minutes, you can totally interrupt me, that's fine. I do that with my students at school. They might write something and I totally miss it. And don't be afraid to, you know, ask a question that may start a discussion. You know, we can walk through anything that you guys have questions on. So again, we're going to walk through the process of helping our students design our climate action plans. And the action plan should be something that in the long term is going to benefit their school, going to benefit their community, something that they're going to be proud of. They'll be participating in their own climate action planning workshop. And it could be argued as one of the most important times of the summit, because this is the takeaway. This is what they're going to walk away with and hopefully be able to follow through on those actions that they come up with. So they're going to attend the summit to learn how to take action, right? And as teachers, our job is to guide them, to make sure that, you know, they have the resources that they need. They know where to look for those resources. They know how to make connections with other schools and other students that may be working on something similar. So we'll just go through the agenda really quick. And so we're kind of did that introduction piece already, but we're going to talk a little bit more about what it all looks like. We're going to guide you through the climate action planning process, what executing those climate actions look like, give you some time to ask questions. Hopefully I have answers, I may not, but then also provide you maybe with some resources, mainly for, you know, moving into the climate summit. Because it is new, you know, it's new for us, and, you know, it could make sense in our minds and somebody else could be looking at it and going, oh my God, I have no clue what they're doing. So don't be afraid to, you know, ask about what that looks like. And then, you know, again, some resources and where to go to from there. So see, during the off hours portion of the summit, your school team is going to work together. They're going to be creating a climate action plan. And again, looking at what things could benefit the school and or the community. Could be both. The project will be theirs. It's the students' project. And that's something that even myself as an educator, I struggle with that because of the fact that I struggle with that, and that, you know, I want to, you know, I want to go out there and find those resources for them. I want to go out there and, you know, make the connection with, you know, the town supervisor, I want to get them to some place that they need to check out because it would be really good for their project. But it's important for us to let them make those connections, for them to reach out, because that's what's going to really allow them to really feel like they're in control of their project and they're taking command of that project. So they're going to start out, they're going to brainstorm any project ideas, any designs for projects, and what they're going to need to make their project happen. So we're going to walk through that process so that you can have a better idea of ways that you can help your students develop those ideas and really get them started and set them into action. So they're going to start their planning by thinking about their school, right? What kind of environmental problems face their school, what resources are available to assist them with their projects, and just what they're passionate about. You know, you want them, again, to pick something that is going to keep their interest. You want them to feel like it's something that they have a vested interest in doing. And if they're just doing it because you thought it was a good idea, right, sometimes it can fall apart. So really, there's ways that we can, suggest different things and make them, it was their idea, even though maybe we, had a few ideas to put into it. So they're going to start their planning by thinking of, oh, sorry, I just read that. So they're going to use the map or the list that they're going to create. So part of that brainstorming process is there's going to be a paper in front of them. And for us, as in the virtual world, it's going to be difficult. We don't have all of our students right there in front of us, or maybe you do. So actually, maybe let me ask that question. Is everybody remote at this point, or is there anybody that has their students daily that can work with students after school, or are they going to be all going home to do the summit?
At Roxbury, we're in person right now.
Are you able to do after school stuff?
We are.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So is crop going on for you, Neil?
It starts the 13th.
Okay. All right. How about everybody else?
In New York City, we are remote.
Okay. Annie, do you have students?
No, we're remote as well.
Okay. All right. So, it'll look different. Some of us are going to be, just virtually connecting with those students, and some of us are, maybe able to have a collective group, where they can go up to the whiteboard, or they can be, working on a large piece of paper and just throwing ideas out there. So thinking about virtually how we can make this work, I don't know if you guys have ever used Google Jamboard. And so Google Jamboard is kind of like a virtual whiteboard that everybody has control of. And, sometimes when students have the freedom to just write without consequence, where, they can't necessarily see who's, putting everything on at every moment, that maybe they're more freely able to put out their ideas. And so the Jamboard just is a way to do that. They can throw it, something up at any time, and it's just it's a splashing of everybody's ideas, and that's really that brainstorming process. Just having a student passionate about increasing the recycling going on in your school, and another student may be very passionate about what they can do to bring in more reusable water bottle stations. And so by throwing all those ideas up, sometimes it gets those juices flowing, and it really, well, I was passionate about this, but you're right, this is maybe a bigger issue in our school, and hopefully starting that conversation. So to have a Jamboard up where everybody can kind of have a say or control of what's going on onto the brainstorming list, and then really discussing, okay, let's prioritize this. What are we as a collective group going to be most passionate about? What do we want to take on as a project? So just as an idea out of a way to really work virtually. Honestly, I wish I had my students. I'm ready to have my students back in school, because I'm struggling with this virtual thing. So we're all kind of in the same boat of trying to figure out the best way to make those connections.
Can I ask a question related to this question about what could be improved at our school? Are we supposed to focus on this question in terms of when we're in school, or is it open? I'm just not sure, because it ended very abruptly for us in March. So students might be thinking that they're so removed from school, they could be. I don't know how they're going to approach this question.
Sure.
Since we're
Yeah.
not, is it okay if they just come up with ideas, even just around like technology, and making sure that we're not creating too much e-waste from all the technology that now we have to supply with the families and the students? Is that all right if we go in that direction?
Yeah, and the climate action can be individual. If one student says, I really want to get my parents to use reusable bags, and I really want to get them to stop using straws, that can be, a climate action can be very personal. Or it can be collective. So as a group, if they decide that they want to get rid of plastic straws out of their cafeteria, even though they're not in school right now, it's not a direct connection, that's something they can still work towards. But they can take it home. They can, make their action personal, and, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, we're all as a collection going to get our parents to stop using plastic straws. It's, okay, I'm going to get my parents to reduce our plastic bag usage. I'm going to get my parents to turn off our electricity and our television when we're not in the room. So those simple little actions that, yes, we can kind of come together and brainstorm as a group, but we can all walk away with our own plan. So it's unique. It's definitely not, you know, the original design of the climate action plan, you know, when the summits first started, but I think we have to adapt and we have to, you know, figure out what's the best for the students and to keep them engaged in wanting to make a difference and, you know, being passionate about the climate change controversies that are out there. So yeah, I think we can, you know, and you can, you know, your students, you can, you know, think individually, guys, what do you want to do to make a change? Or if you think that collectively they're going to come together as a group and they're going to want to do something bigger, you know, maybe community related, maybe they want to go to their town supervisor, their town, maybe the mayor, and, you know, do a talk on, you know, climate change. So yeah, it absolutely, you're absolutely right in that it needs to connect with them wherever they are. So, you know, the brainstorming process, they're going to throw all those ideas out there, but then you're going to start narrowing down the options, you know, what's feasible, what, you know, is within our budget, what can we, you know, look for in terms of resources outside of, you know, whether it's the classroom, the school, the community, or within those things, you know, and you really want to try to guide them to the options that are likely to succeed. You know, we want them to succeed in whatever they choose to do. But if you're looking at something going, oh my gosh, that's a huge thing to take on, don't be afraid to put it in their hands. You know, don't be afraid to tell them your reservations. But, you know, if they think they can do it, if they're passionate about it, we've seen it. The students have done it, and they've done amazing projects. So let's see. All right, so the climate action, so what is a climate action plan, and what do successful plans look like? There's been so many since the inception of the idea of climate action planning and the climate change summits, that I wish I could talk to you about all of the great things that have happened. I know there's been things at the college level, at the high school level, at the middle school level, at the elementary level. I can speak more, you know, about what we as a team in South Korea have done in the past 4 years when we've really been actively engaged in pursuing our plans. You know, we've done things from school-wide education days where we have taken over the entire school for a day, and the student leaders did education. We did crafts. We did, you know, especially for the elementary students, we did games. We did something looking at, or actually it was another game that was looking at natural disasters and emergency preparedness. We did just kind of, you know, group talks on, you know, what are the issues and what issues are facing, and doing some climate education. So it was a school-wide thing, and that was our project a couple years ago. We executed it. We had, you know, some great student leaders, and, you know, we just let them go. They were in control that day, and the students enjoyed it. The students that were leading, but also the students that participated. We've also, as part of the climate group planning the summits, you know, we've done things from creating reusable, recycled materials, making bags out of t-shirts and straws out of paper, and you know, different things like that. Community gardens are big, you know, setting up community gardens, or just gardens at the school alone, getting the students out to, you know, recognize the importance of locally grown materials. But then also I know some have opened those gardens up to the communities and saying, okay, if you know, you want locally grown stuff, hey, come in, help us, you know, we'll make this garden bigger based on how much participation we have. And there have been large community gardens produced from these climate action plans. You know, greenscapes, carbon neutral proms, you know, something that, you know, connects really to those students. There's another one I was thinking of and I lost it. But
about the solar project.
Yes, so actually currently we are working on bringing in a solar setup so that we can solar charge any devices within the school, and also directly connected to our laptop carts, because we know we have so many at this point. They're not in school at this point, but it's something, it's a little piece, right? And it's something that actually introduces the students to what's out there, technologies and the engineering that goes behind alternative energies, and where the jobs are. So we're looking to use it for both education and use as far as bringing in solar power. So we're getting there. That was our plan in March, where we were supposed to really start moving forward, and then things have came to an end very suddenly. So that's part of our action plan for this year as well, or at least I hope the students say so. Okay, let's see. So we're really looking for ideas that are the students, but if you have to throw some ideas out there, one of the things that you're going to get as a resource is a booklet or a pamphlet that is the climate action planning guide. And so in that guide, so step 1 is that brainstorming. Step 2, okay, so let's see where your passion fits in. Are we looking at energy efficiency? Are we looking at water efficiency? Is it school gardening? Is it use of chemicals in water and pesticides? Is it local food? So just kind of, what category are we looking at? So where do we fit into this whole big picture? It's, again, you want them to brainstorm ideas, and then, really decide where their passions lie, and then where does this fit into the large scheme of things. So it's really important in this process that the students have a clear goal. And there's long-term goals and there's short-term goals. And as part of this climate action process, they are determining what those goals look like. In a year, 1 year from now, we want to at least get our project started, and have it going. In 5 years, we want to show that we have had a 50% improvement in our plastic use, or in 5 years, we want to get rid of 100% of our single-use plastics out of our cafeteria, or however that's going to look. So having a short-term goal that allows them to see those successes. The long-term goals are going to, okay, where do we want to take this? And it's so important, especially with working with middle schoolers, working with high schoolers, understanding that the passion of these students right now, while they're still in school in the next 5 to 6 years, 4 years for some if they're in high school, less than that, they're going to make sure this continues. But it's making sure that their passion continues, making sure that that next group of students that's coming up, keeps that drive going. And we may find that in 5 years that passion has changed, and we have to find new action to take. But hopefully, what happens, and this is one reason why we did our climate education, is that we wanted all of the students to recognize the importance of making these changes. And so when we actually did a food waste composting program, and the hardest part was getting everybody on board. But once we educated everybody to the importance of doing it, everybody was on board, and everybody was doing what they could to make it successful. So in terms of goals, they use the SMART goals acronym, right? That they need to be specific and measurable. Once they decide what they are passionate about and what their project's going to be, when they set those goals, be very, very specific. So one of the examples that they give, like with the carbon neutral prom, they wanted to make 2 signs for publicity, and to kind of put up so other students, kind of took on their passion. And they wanted them to know how passionate it was. So being very specific, we're going to create 2 signs to put out to educate others. Not just we're going to create some information. Okay, how much? What's that going to look like? Right? Be very specific and make it measurable. Put numbers to it. Right? Quantitatively, say, okay, we're going to do this 3 times throughout the school year. We're going to reduce this by 50%. So giving it numbers is really important. Having achievable and realistic goals, right? And that's where we really come in to make sure that we are allowing them to set goals that are achievable. So they are creating the goals. They're deciding what's going to happen, but we have to be the ones to say, well, okay, 3 is ambitious, but maybe this year we should try for 2, right? And so that they see success. If they went for 3 and only got 2, maybe some are going to see that as not being successful and not reaching their goal. So just hitting that point where we say, okay, this is the goal we set and we did it. That was absolutely amazing. So yeah. And then the last thing is making a time bound, setting a very, very clear time scale to their goals. You know, in 6 months or by June, right? Because we tend to work by school year. By June, we're going to see this measurable amount of change. And then again, that's where the short-term versus long-term goals comes in that we're going to go here for a second. So that's where the short-term and long-term comes in. You know, the short term is really about keeping the team focused, keeping them on track so they can see that project to completion. Again, long term, you got to think about, okay, who's coming next, right? Who's going to take on this project? Sometimes the long term goals can help them think aspirationally about what might change for future students as a result of their project. And, you know, once the change is made, sometimes that's it. You know, maybe the long term is just to make sure it continues to happen and we don't revert back to something. All right, it's been kind of a lot so far. So I'm going to take a breath. Any comments, questions at this point? If I get rambling, don't be afraid to stop me either. Okay, so step 4, you know, is really identifying who's going to help make this project happen. And you want the students to list them by name. Who do they need to go talk to? Who do they need to see about finances? Who do they need to go to in the community to make sure they have the support? So usually their plan will not be possible, again, without the outside help. You know, a climate project involves changing the way people do things as a whole, as well as how whole systems work. Just changing when the club will not have a big enough effect in most regards. You know we have to change. That's why we're part of the environmental club. That's why we're part of the green team. That's why we're here for this climate summit. So this part is really for, you know, thinking about what people or organizations should be involved in helping to make their project a success. If you're doing an event in your school, it's good to have them, you know, talk to administrators, go to the Board of Education. They'll have ideas of people to go to and resources that they connect with. You know, for instance, our solar project, you know, we knew it was going to be expensive. We knew we were going to have to generate large quantities of funding. So we went to the board, you know, and we didn't go for the board looking for money. We went to the board looking for ideas. We went to the board hoping that they were going to back the project, for one, but then also, you know, seeing what connections they had with the community, seeing what connections, you know, we could make with them in regard to maybe their expertise. You know, so we were able to get board approval. We went to maintenance, right? Because, you know, we get this big solar, you know, solar panel up, you know, and all the wiring connections into the school, and great, it's there, but who's going to maintain it, right? Who's going to be the one that's going to, you know, work with the company to make sure it's put in the right place? You know, so it's the maintenance people that really have to be on board too. So all the things that maybe our team aren't going to think of, but maybe, hey, maybe you should go talk with Mr. So-and-so, who's, you know, head of facilities, and maybe see what he thinks, if this is, you know, think it's feasible. Maybe he has an idea of who you can contact, right? Obviously, administration, you got to have your administration behind you. And for us too, technology. You know, we're connecting to the technology in the school, so we had to talk to, you know, our tech guys, right? And make sure that, you know, they thought it was something that they could support as well. So partnering with outside groups, you know, actually the folks that we're working with to get the solar actually did a talk for Jeannie and Cooperative Extension not too long ago. Apex Solar, come to find out, the one parent of a student, he worked for Apex Solar, and so he came in, he talked to our students, and he gave us a quote. And he was one. I found numerous companies that the students could connect with to maybe get other quotes it was very difficult for them. So he was a great one to work for. He had the connection to the school, and so it worked out pretty well. Now we just got to finish working on that funding piece. Okay, so again, we talked about the long and short-term goals. Okay, so resources. So what resources do we need to accomplish our goals? So, again, make it their project. Yeah, oh yeah, I know of a grant, or oh, I know somebody you can contact. But it's connecting the students to those things. We wrote probably 4 or 5 grants last school year, and I didn't write one of them. The students did the work. They made the connections to get the grant information. They wrote the grant. They submitted the grant applications. We actually received 3 out of I think the 5 that we applied for. And they did it. It was their project, their submissions to those grants, and it was their money coming back at them. So students often run into financial or time management barriers. So planning for cost of materials will help them prepare and prevent any surprise costs from slowing them down in the future. So really making a list of, okay, if this is what we're going to take on, if this is our climate action plan, what are we going to need? And having a more complete list in the beginning is going to give them a better idea of what they're going to need in the long term. So if they need supplies for the project, think about how they can maybe get things donated. Instead of raising money to purchase supplies, they could look for donations in order to purchase those supplies. How can they then turn around and think and appreciate the businesses that do give them donations? They're responsible for that end as well. It's not, oh yeah, thanks for the money. It's, okay, how can we recognize these partners that we've had in our project? And, when you think about the skills that they're going to take away from being part of something like this, oh my God, it's amazing. They're going to be able to work for any company, any non-for-profit, any, any company out there and say, what, I can do that. I know how to make connections. I know how to, find funding. So again, for our solar project, we've got funding through grants. We've gotten scholarship money that, because the students have been so involved, have been awarded scholarship that has been duplicated to our project. And we're going to continue. So our project is about a $11,000 project. We are about 3/4 of our way to our goal. So, this is going to be our climate action. I hope, I'll do my best to, in a roundabout way, encourage them to do so, but continue that effort. So, all right, let's see. All right, so this again was just a sample, as far as what we needed for our solar charging unit. And, but it doesn't have to cost as much. This was a big take on, but the first couple of years of us doing climate action was us doing the action, us getting small donations to support our actions. The school-wide education day, the food waste collection, and even our actions within the Climate Summit advisory group. So, it could cost nothing. And that's okay. It's sometimes the small actions that lead to the bigger actions. And the small changes can lead to, again, the big changes in terms of climate change. So don't feel that they have to take on something that's going to be so consuming or seem so out of reach, right? Start small, grow big.
Dawn, there's a question from Matthew. He says, is it common to look into grants for money or more related to the large scale of the solar project? I think you kind of were answering that.
Yeah. But you're kind of, I guess it depends on what you're looking at, and like I said, the individual, I think you got this from what I said, but those individual projects, yeah, they can cost nothing. The student action, right, doesn't always require money. So yeah, it's definitely, the larger you go, the more funding you need, and then you start to look to bigger areas in regard to money. But whatever you decide, and I'm talking like your group, whatever your group decides to do, it's the feasibility of success. And that's really your measure. You know, if they found something they're passionate about and all it's going to take is their manpower, beautiful. If they're passionate about something that's going to cost some money, right, then the grants may be something they have to look at. But that process, oh my God, having a student write a grant and have them be able to say, I've done that, and that doesn't scare me. That's huge. There's so many people who are like, I can't write a grant. Like that sounds like so much work, you know? And so just putting their hands on those things can be huge. But yeah, I mean, it definitely doesn't require. So that's hopefully what our solar panels will look like someday. Okay, so step 13 is looking at, you know, how will you measure the success, you know, how are you going to monitor it, and, you know, what ways can we do that? So many successful teams start out their climate action project by answering the question, what would success for this project look like? You're going to take time in the planning process to ask them this question. They need to create that picture. They need to know what their success is going to look like. And that might change as they work together on the project, but always remember to go back to that question. You know, in a month from now, maybe they decide on their climate action, you know, Thursday, maybe first day they pick it. And, you know, in a month, go back to that question. If we continue on this path, what is success going to look like? And if they keep meeting that same answer, great, but that could evolve. So the more they become educated on their topic, the more they become educated about their project, you know, success may begin to look very differently, and that's okay. So it's going to help them to evaluate what is working and what isn't. So once again, sticking to the SMART goals is going to be incredibly important, making sure things are specific and measurable, monitoring their success. You know, for example, if they said they wanted to improve recycling in classrooms by presenting to all the students, like during homeroom, and they said they were going to check the recycle bins once a week to count the number of items that were actually recycled. They said they would present to 5 classrooms a month for every month of fall semester, and they, you know, that was their measurement of success. If they made it to 5 classrooms, they did it. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. So sticking to those SMART goals are super important. And again, long-term and short-term, you know, in the long-term, what do we want it to look like? In the short-term, you know, this is our goal. We want to get to 5 classrooms every month. So with any project, there's always going to be something they can measure. It could be the amount of wattage used from an outlet. It could be responses to a survey after doing an educational event. It could be how many vegetables are we actually getting out of our garden. So, you know, again, using those measurable pieces is going to say, okay, are we heading towards our goal? Are we finding success? You know, is success what we expected it to look like? Once they have those measurable goals, you're going to assign, sometimes you can take those goals and assign them to individuals. Okay, you're responsible for making sure we see success with this particular goal, that we want to get into those 5 classrooms every month. If you as the person monitoring this piece of the puzzle, you know, let me know how you're coming, you know, come back to me. You know, if it's midway through the month and you've only made it to 3 and you're not making connection with the other 2, that's what I'm here for. You know, come and we'll work on it. But then that one person is responsible for making sure that that goal is met. But at the same time, maybe another person has a goal of making sure the educational materials are ready. Another person's given the goal to make sure that they do the follow-up survey. And you have another team or another individual who's responsible for collecting those recycled materials and getting the numbers out of what's actually collected. So, you know, there's that team mentality, but everybody's responsible for their piece of the puzzle. So, you know, checking in with them is going to be really important, making sure that you know, they are seeing success, making sure that there's, you know, nothing that they, you know, just need a little bit of assistance with. But again, it's the team that's really monitoring the progress. Meetings, I don't know if your green teams or your environmental clubs meet on a regular basis, but your meetings should always come back to that climate action plan. You know, do a general overview. Hey, you know, this is one of our goals. Who's responsible for this goal? You know, how's it coming? You know, where are you at? You know, bring the team together for maintaining those goals. And so always, remembering to ask them to share out their progress and take time to ask for help. Maybe if somebody's struggling with their end of the goal, maybe somebody else has an idea, or maybe they've got time, they can help them. So those, bringing them together to do that is obviously important. All right, so slide 14, step 8 in the climate action process is communication. Communication will make their project more fun, right? They're doing it collectively together. They need to keep talking to each other. Just because they're the ones that came up with the project doesn't mean they have to be the only ones executing it, right? If it requires their school to come on board, right? They have to keep communicating with the school to let them know, hey, we're doing great. Oh, we're struggling, we really need your support. Try to get them involved, get them to involve more people, not only for your teams as a whole, but just people involved in the project, so that they can show others how these projects can fit into and impact maybe others' lives. Think about all the different strategies for spreading the word about their project. They could be using social media, printing posters, doing newspaper articles if your school has a newsletter, going on the radio, doing a YouTube video, creating a Zoom, an after-school Zoom where maybe they're just trying to find more people who are interested in what they're passionate about. So we use the students' strengths, make the connections. Our students' strengths are this, they're all about the social media. And I think it'll be interesting to see the long term of this online school thing, and to see if the social media thing kind of winds down a little bit. They're spending so much time on the computer and on their devices that it'll be interesting to see if they take a step back from some of these tools. But again, they are tools, and then they know how to use them. So definitely take advantage of that. So continue to reference your climate action plan. The point of filling out the plan is that you have to think about and decide and to be very deliberate, so that when in the future, when you're looking at, okay, this was our plan, you had every step planned out along the way. You didn't get halfway through and be like, oh, we got to go back and, we really need a little bit more detail in the communication process, or we need a little bit more here. The more they do as a group now, the easier their month by month to-do lists are going to be. So again, use those climate action plans as a guide for your team meetings. Review the climate action plan regularly. Maybe make a scan of it, or maybe have them create it on a Google Drive so that they can share it with everybody, so it's editable by everybody. Everybody has a hand in the work that's being done, especially if you are remote and you're working with students as a team remotely. You want them to be actively engaged in that process. So again, using things like Jamboards, using Google Docs, where they all can be editing and changing and doing different pieces, and maybe even assigning them specific tasks to the process. So as you go, big thing is document everything they're doing, because one of the biggest things that the students can walk away from this process is their successes. And if somebody says, hey, that's really interesting, I'm really excited to know about how you guys did this, because this is what I want to do in my school. Somebody could take their work, and not that they're going to take their work specifically, but they're going to take maybe the template that they use for their survey. They're going to borrow their posters and their design for their posters. They're going to, maybe want to replicate, so for instance, when we did our school-wide environmental day, all of those materials were put on Google Drive, and I had numerous teachers say, oh, I really want to do that. What did your schedule look like for the day? Oh, no problem, I'll share it with you and you can modify it as you want. And the students too, if the students talked with other students, they were able to say, hey, if this is something you're interested in, we can just send you all of these files. So they don't have to start from scratch. So they can take it one step farther than maybe you were able to do. So the documentation is really important. It's almost like the scientific method, right? Me as a science teacher, I'm like, telling the students, one of the most important things in scientific method is the communication piece, right? why make somebody do something exactly what you did when you could have shared your data and then they could have taken it more, the next step. And this is the same idea, right? This presentation, I added my personal things in my pictures, but the Wild Center created this. I just borrowed it. I modified it for me. So it's definitely saves time in the long run. So, we know that we're all in it for the same goal. We know that we're all, we wouldn't be here if we didn't understand the importance of offsetting climate change and doing what we can to make a difference. And so, I think by having the students document their process and then understand that anybody could use that, I think it makes them understand the network that exists out there. That, and one of the last slides I'm going to show you is that, the summit idea has spread around the world, and we're not the only ones doing this. And the amount of resources that are shared between summits is huge. So anyways, so any questions about anything? That was a lot. And again, your goal in this is to put the plan into the students' hands, have them create it from step 1 all the way to step 8 in the communication piece, and make them proud, help them to be proud of the project that they've executed. And success doesn't always mean success in terms of we made our goal. Success may mean this is what we learned from this process, and that's awesome. So as far as the climate action planning process, I've got some more slides in regard to the summit itself, to hopefully clear up any questions you may have in regard to that. But as far as the climate action process, the planning process, is there any questions about that?
I didn't see, so I think I stepped away. What step 2 is? I got 1 through 8, but I missed 2.
So step 2 was really, hold on. Was, really figuring out where it fits into the large design. Where, if we had to categorize our project, are we really looking to change, government policy and, bring in smart climate communities? Are we looking to, have more food grown locally and supply local food to our cafeteria? Where does it fit into the large scheme of things? Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so in terms of the summit itself, in preparing our students for the next month or so, the idea was to have your students do a little bit of pre-summit work. They're going to watch a video, the Climate Science 101 materials, have them watch the video, and just make sure they've got, sound climate science going into some of the workshops and the discussions they're going to be having in the workshops. The virtual workshops, again, are going to be starting on October 1st. So from 3:30 to 5:30, you're going to have your students log into the Zoom. And all of those links are going to be through the packet that Valerie sent to everybody. So the links to those particular workshops are going to be there, and that's kind of your portal to get your students from kind of the outline to the meeting that they're supposed to be in. So there's 4 workshops each workshop day. So telling your climate story, Erin Griffin is going to be doing that. She has been actually doing this workshop for quite a few years now, and just getting the students to connect with and find their connection with climate change. And we're also going to be doing a little bit of a climate action planning workshop for the students, so they know the process and what that's going to look like. So then that will be for everybody on October 1st. So you could be assigned to the Telling Your Climate Story workshop. You could be in the Environmental Justice workshop. Environmental Justice is going to be done by Rachel Kornhauser, who is a who is a instructor at SUNY Oneonta. And I think she has one of our advisory students working with her. Water Connections is going to be done by Sean Russell, who is a huge ocean conservation activist down in Florida. He's come and done our summits a couple of times now. Excellent speaker, and the actions that he has executed are absolutely amazing. And then youth engagement in climate smart communities. Jeannie, remind me who's doing that one. Sorry.
Actually a student.
Scout Pronto.
Oh, this is
Rhinebeck student.
Scout, right?
Yes, Scout Pronto.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so Scout is an amazing, high school student who she has been actively engaged in climate actions for actually quite a few years now already. She's actually created her own organization, and obviously has been part of bringing climate smart communities into her community. So all 4 really good workshops. So my understanding is that we're going to be assigned to the workshops, Valerie, is that correct?
Yeah, I'm just waiting until we have the final registrations, and then each school will be assigned basically an order of which workshop they take which date.
Okay, so that first date will be a slightly shorter workshop, and then everybody's going to come together for the climate action planning workshop?
No, it's going to be the same, but instead of having people break out into groups for the last half hour,
Okay,
we're going
gotcha.
to have you and the students do an overview for everybody.
Okay, so everybody will be into the same Zoom at the end then?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So then, whichever one you didn't do on the 1st, you maybe you'll have on the 15th, the 29th, and the 12th. And then in between, these are kind of like the optional, like keeping them engaged kind of days. They're calling them Babel breakout sessions, and they're student-led, 100%. The students are going to just start a conversation, start a discussion. And let's see, so I think Amal is starting October 8th at World of Water. She's just gonna be talking about issues surrounding water. Our climate impact, I think, is Dylan, one of the South Court students, and just talking about how we really ultimately have, had an impact on the earth and climate, and what that looks like, and maybe how we can offset that. And then November 5th is Alternative Energies, and Ailey, another South Court student, she's going to be leading that and just having conversations about some of the solutions, right? How we can maybe use more of the alternative energies that are out there. So, your students are, especially those of us who are still remote, they're over Zoomed. They're screen overloaded. So, just, and reinforce that they don't have to do everything. But do as much as they can. We want them to participate. We want them to, to get as much out of it as possible. It'd be nice if we could do it in all one chunk on a good long, day, but the reality is not going to work that way. So, certainly just encourage them to participate as much as possible, and get them excited about what the topics are, and that hopefully will make them say, okay, I've had a long day of Zooming, but I'm ready for another one. So yeah, so you should have received, if not soon, be receiving some more information from Valerie, and again, they'll have the schedule of everything, and my email address is there. So if you ever have a question, or if there's anything that I can help you with, please feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to help you out. And it may be just me referring you to the right person. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of neat knowing that we are a part of this huge network of thousands of teachers and students who are action planning across the country, across the world. Youth summits are happening every year, and it just means that we aren't the only ones that care about the issue. Our students aren't the only ones that are passionate about this, and that people are trying to make a change. And I think that's important for us to convey to our students. We want them to realize that they're not alone in feeling that they need to make a difference, that there are people everywhere that are doing what they're doing. So there is a network out there of resources, and a great hub for those resources is the Wild Center up in the Adirondacks. They have a great youth climate program. We are actively involved in the youth climate program, and they've been great as far as helping us execute our designs. We've given them ideas. And if you go to their website, there is a number of links to get to resources, probably anything that you might ever think of. Let's see. Oh. So let's see.
While Dawn's trying to actually find the next slide, let me say that we have also some incentives. So if the students participate in 3 out of the 4 workshops, they'll get a t-shirt and a hat. And we also have a goose chase activity that kids can participate in, and schools will get points for participating, and the top 5 schools will get $100 towards their climate action plan that they can use. So we're trying to actually involve schools to really have fun, but also have some incentives so that the kids will get something for, doing another Zoom meeting. So just wanted people to be aware that we have some great things for the kids as well.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to ask, will the goose chase be explained more, or I know that there was a link and I didn't read it thoroughly. Will that be explained more to the group on Thursday, or is it something that we should do with our own team?
Yeah, you probably will want to look into it a little bit on your own. So definitely check out and get started with the app. But we will be sharing the information on Thursday with you as well. So you'll get an introduction to it, and hopefully if you have questions, we'll follow up and help you with that. But it should be really fun. I think we're trying to make this fun, not all serious, but really having a good time while kids are learning and really specifically working on action.
So yeah, and play around with it a little bit. If you get the app and you get the kids connected, even if you go to, I think their website gives some examples of what different goose chases will look like. Yeah, so if they can be a little bit familiar before we get started, the better. But the goose chase will start after Thursday. So once we have our initiation on Thursday, then the goose chase will be pushed out to you through the app, and then they can get started after that. But it's definitely something you can play around with before that. So I was bringing up the chat, that's why I had hesitated there. Is it Matt? Is that right?
I think it's Megan Leonard from Walton.
Oh, Matthew Butts. I was looking at that one. Okay, so Megan, sorry. So
I had a question, and I'm sorry I was late, so I hope I'm not bringing up something that was already discussed, but are you expecting all the kids to log in individually, or are teams at schools Zooming in a classroom? Because I did get permission to do an after school with a group in my classroom, which they can all be spread out. So we do, social distancing and stuff, but I don't want to go against the norm if everyone's expecting the kids to log in individually and meet up online.
No, I think
I
think if you have the availability to keep the kids after school and they have access, you can totally do it as a group. Okay. If you're relying on transportation, I'm not sure when your transportation goes out, but we're probably going to use the majority of the time up to 5:30. So, keep that in mind. If the students feel like they're able to be on and Zooming for the time, where, at home versus if you had to cut them short at school, something to think about that way. But yeah, absolutely. If you can have them all together, that's ideal. Still 6 feet apart, but yeah, so it's whatever's going to work for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, so I think the only other thing, so, any other thoughts or questions, please don't be afraid to email Valerie or Jeannie or I. We will definitely help you as much as we can. Hopefully this has helped you to kind of get an idea of the process that your students are going to go through in climate action planning. And, know that you have resources out there, that you have partners that are working to do similar work. So, you know, if there's anything that we can help you or provide you with, you know, just let us know. Any other last questions?
Just looking forward to having everybody on Thursday. It's going to be no experience for us, but we think it's going to be a great one. So every Thursday we have something going on until actually the 12th of November. But the kids really wanted to do the Babel breakouts that came from the students. They just wanted a chance to just talk and share and be together, but they only want to be together for a half hour. So those will be only half hour. And I think that's great. So it will help us have something every Thursday. I think it will be helpful to keep everybody moving together.
Yeah, I think if we can just keep them engaged, you know, they're gonna stay with us, you know, and do the best they can to not be screen overloaded. But you know, again, it'll be fun. And I think if we allow them to recognize how their actions can make a difference, you know, that's going to keep them. That's going to make them want to stay and want to participate, and know that you're there for them to, you know, to help them through the process. So. All right. Well, thank you guys for participating. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us.
Great. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.